Okay, so welcome to Psalms for Life, in which we explore a different chapter of Psalms each week. And I want to thank Esther Elagorovich for sponsoring this class. It should be a source of merit and bracha for her family. And this class is dedicated to the brave Chayalim, the brave soldiers of the IDF, and those who have lost their lives al Kiddush Hashem. It's dedicated to the hostages for their safe return, as well as to Nir ben Nurit and Yehuda ben Livnat. And I would also like to mention dedication to Vladi Melnik in Ukraine, who was called up to the army. And also this should be for his safety as well. He's someone very special. He guards the Ohel of Reb Noson in Breslov. He takes care of it. Okay. Today we are going to be learning Psalm 58. If you were with us last week, you remember that Psalm 58 is part of a series of 3 Psalms. Rav Hirsch links it to actually a series of 4 Psalms that begin with "Do not destroy." And these 3 Psalms are specifically about Shaul's pursuit of David. And last week's Psalm was about the time when David was hiding in a cave and Shaul came in, and David cut off a hem of Shaul's robe, of King Saul's robe, in order to prove that that his intent wasn't to harm Saul, but that his intent was to ascend to the crown, which was rightfully his by anointment of the prophet Shmuel, and at the same time prove to Shaul he didn't want to kill him. Okay, so there is a segula for today's psalm. It's an interesting one. It's for protection against a vicious dog. Why is this? Okay, what does this mean? So as we read through the psalm, we see that there are a lot of animals, mostly creepy ones, named in this psalm. And I couldn't find a direct reason for why this is the case, although I looked. But I think that it is referring to David's enemies as being like a ferocious dog. That would be my educated guess. Okay. Now, in this psalm, Shaul was pursuing David now to the wilderness of Ziph. Initially, Shaul was convinced that David didn't want to hurt him after the incident with the cloak, but Avner, his leading general, pressured the king to reconsider and said that no, he really does want to kill you. So Avner was quite a baal lashon hara, stirred the pot, so to speak. And so the king chased David now into this wilderness. And this time, the psalm is in reference to when King Shaul was resting in his camp. And Avner, says the Midrash, is guarding the king while he sleeps, and he himself is asleep. And the Midrash tells us that the way he guards the king is that he has his legs, and he's a very big, powerful man. So, and the legs are a very powerful part of the body, much more powerful than arms, actually, which is fitting because tonight we are beginning the sphere of Chesed, Netzach, the right leg. And he has his legs wrapped protectively as sort of a barrier to protect Shaul's head. And David and one of his generals, Avishai ben Zeruiah, enter the camp. They sneak in at night. And David's soldier wants to kill King Shaul and Avner immediately. And David says, listen, give me one more chance. I want to prove to him I don't want to kill him. He's my father-in-law. He's dear to me. He's a tzaddik. And so what he does is he steals out from under Avner and Shaul a jug of water and a spear. King Shaul's spear and a jug of water that were left right near him. Now, here's the interesting Midrash that I'm going to tell you about. It goes like this. David was sitting in his garden and he watched a flea attack a spider. A madman came along and swung a stick around, scaring the flea and the spider away. David said, Hashem, a flea only bites, a spider weaves, but his web is useless. And the madman, he's also useless. He has no concept of your greatness. It says that David learned the meaning, the answer to his questions as follows. So first, when he was chased by Shaul, a spider built a web over a cave. And when Shaul saw the spider's web, he walked by, he said, spider's here, nobody's inside, the web's not broken. Not realizing that the spider quickly built the web when David was hiding inside. And as a matter of fact, we have a time-honored custom on the advice of our sages to not kill a spider. Obviously, it's a poisonous spider, it's going to bite. That's a different story. Okay. So I'm not a fan of spiders, but I will do my best to scoop them up in a cup or a piece of paper and throw them out the window. I don't want them in my house, but I also don't want to kill them. Now, the flea, it says, pertains to this story. Avner, as David crawled through to get the spear and the jug I spoke of, Avner, his legs instinctively in his sleep went and pressed down on David and had him in a headlock. So David was praying, oh, what am I going to do? Hashem, please help me. Please help me. And at that moment, a flea bit Avner. He jumped. It hurts when a flea bites you. He jumped and he let David go. So David escaped. And then he himself was suddenly able to realize he himself was the madman. He said, I must have been mad. I couldn't see Hashem's greatness. Now I can see Hashem's greatness and I can see the power of tefillah. Okay, we'll begin. We'll begin the psalm now. Okay, we'll start with the first verse, Aleph. Lamanatzeach al tashches leDavid michtam. For the conductor, a plea to be spared from destruction by David, a michtam. Rashi says, michtam is a crown, and it's a crown of nobility, because a true noble, true royalty, you've heard of the expression noblesse oblige, is when Naomi Mass can correct my pronunciation, is when is somebody with nobility or royalty or a title feels an obligation to those beneath him as well as to others. It's a responsibility. It's very different today, but it's supposed to be a responsibility. David felt a responsibility to do everything in his power to avoid hurting or killing Shaul. And therefore, he deserves this crown. Okay, let's continue. Ha'umnam elem tzedek tidaberun, mesharim tishpatu b'nei adam. Is it true that you were silent? Justice should you speak, with fairness you should judge people. So it is said here that David is speaking to those who are after him, especially Avner. Okay. And he's reprimanding them. And he's saying, before you spoke against me, now you know I'm innocent. You know I'm innocent, and yet you're silent. And as I mentioned before, that Avner really stirred the pot, and he knew better. He knew what was really going on. What was his agenda? It was probably power, things like this. I don't think it was loyalty to Shaul per se. And in fact, Avner, when the spear and the jug were taken, he worked very hard to convince King Saul that King Saul had forgotten them and left them by a stream or something. Filled the jug, forgot about it, left them by a stream, went back to camp, went to sleep, and that David really just took them from the stream, not from right at Shaul's head. Now, I will say that King Shaul, had his memory of laying them down by his head at night, and instead he chose to trust the lashon hara of Avner. Okay. So the Gemara tells us that umnam, okay, is there indeed, or is there this truth that you were silent? It's related to uman, which means a craftsman. And they ask in the Gemara, which craft should a person engage in this world? And that is to emulate an elem, which is the next word, ha'umnam elem, excuse me, elem. Is it true that you were silent? To emulate a mute, okay, to be silent in this, as this verse tells us, to refrain from speaking foolishness. Lashon hara is a biggie because that's what the Talmud mentions directly. And they should instead speak justice, as David tells them. It's justice you should speak. And with fairness, you should judge people. What is justice? What is this tzedek that they're speaking of, this justice and righteousness? It's Torah. That's what it is. So our sages say that this ability to remain silent at the appropriate times and to speak, always connecting one's ideas and thoughts to Torah, is a craft. It's a skill, which is why a person has to be an uman. Now, of course, uman is the burial place of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov. I know many of you have been there. And it was no accident that Rebbe Nachman decided to live the end of his life in Uman and die and be buried there. And he did so for a variety of reasons. The one that he stated most openly is because there were tens of thousands of martyrs. I don't know the exact number, and I'm always trying to find the exact number. And they say the closest number I can have to what is exact is 33,000. When the Haidamaks, which were a Ukrainian national movement, stormed through to fight the Poles, okay, because the Poland occupied and ruled the area that we today call Ukraine at this time, which was in 1768. The Haidamaks came through, and I'm not going to tell the whole story, it's quite detailed, but they laid siege to the town of Uman, and in a lot of double crossing and deception, they slaughtered all the Jews. Okay. And these were, we refer to them as Cossacks, and unfortunately today in Ukraine, they're still praised. I've seen it done, and they're sort of praised as being folk heroes, conveniently forgetting that they were mass murderers. And Uman was the city where the major slaughtering happened. And Rebbe Nachman wanted to be buried there near the martyrs. To him, it was the sweetest thing to be buried near the martyrs. There were a few reasons. One is to be buried near martyrs who refused to convert or to give in to the Haidamax for whatever their demands were. They said, okay, kill us, fine. We're Jews, we'll die as Jews. And the other is because Rebbe Nachman, he said that his mission, his most important mission, was to help every Jew achieve their tikkun. And for those who couldn't in this life, he said he was able to do it after they had already left this world, which is quite an astonishing claim for a tzaddik to make. And so we know that if he makes that claim, that is part of certainly the most amazing thing about Breslov, and quite a dramatic and important idea in Breslov. Now, the name Uman, as I mentioned, is no accident. So what is the role of tzaddik emes, a true tzaddik? What is the role? What is the role of all true tzaddikim? So they are like craftsmen, okay? And their craft, very simply, it's us. They're here to show us how to live as human beings, as mensches, okay? As people should live. And that is their craft. That is their skill. And it's also to take the nekudos tovos, the good points from within each Jew, and to lift them up to Hashem, as it were, and to remind us that we each have very good points inside. We have to connect to that. The most fundamental good point being our neshama, our soul, which is always connected to Hashem. And this is their craft. The other thing I would like to say about this idea of speaking righteousness is that how do we go about speaking Torah? Okay, it's one thing to not speak lashon hara, but then there's sort of mundane talk. What do we do? So Rebbe Nachman teaches that as you start your day, you should bind all your thoughts and your words and so on to Hashem, also to the tzaddikim, but to Hashem, with the intention that everything you're going to do that day is going to be in the service of Hashem. And as a matter of fact, there's a beautiful paragraph very specifically explained in the Breslov Sitter published by Breslov Research Institute about this. I might even do a mini lesson on it because it's so important. And you're welcome if you're in the WhatsApp group, you can hear it. And also, the other thing is that Rebbe Nachman tells us that before a person starts their day or it goes to work, let's say goes to a place of business, he or she should say, I'm going to work in order that I'm able to earn money so I can give Meiser Chomesh. I'm able to give tzedakah. I'm able to give charity from the money. That has to be the main reason to go to work, meaning to go and earn money. Your work might be a mitzvah, maybe you're a mora, maybe you're a nurse saving lives, but still, okay, still to earn the money, to keep in mind and to even vocalize and verbalize the idea that the work you're doing is the paycheck that you're working for is in order that you can give tzedakah. First of all, this will change your entire outlook on your work day. It will elevate it automatically. And also, this is a way to bind the words that you say in the day throughout your day. You know, if you're, let's say you're buying and selling, let's say you're a real estate agent, let's say you're a lawyer or whatever, teacher, whatever, you're attaching your words to the idea of tzedakah. And tzedakah, of course, has the root tzedek, right? We just spoke about tzedek. And tzedakah is righteousness. Charity is righteousness. Charity is true justice. The actual Hebrew word might be chesed, which is giving and loving kindness, but we translate tzedakah as to give charity. And that really means that we're going to be righteous and do the right thing. Okay, we're going to follow what Hashem wants. Okay. Somebody asked me information about posting information to join the WhatsApp group for these classes. I will do so at the end of the class. Please remind me, Pamela, and also I'll post it in the YouTube underneath the YouTube description. Okay. Okay, let's continue. What are we up to? We're only up to Gimel, so I better get moving. Okay. Af belev olos. Tif'alun ba'aretz chamas yedechem tifalesun. Okay. So even in your heart, even in your heart, you do wrong. Okay, or you do wrongs. It's a plural. In the land or on the earth, you weigh out the chamas, right? The violence of your hands. So he's still reprimanding them. I want to point out the word Hamas or Hamas, as they say. And I just want to tell you that it's no accident that Hamas, the entity, chose that name for themselves. They know Hebrew. Okay. Hamas really means a rageful violence, a rage, a venom. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind because we're going to use that. We're going to see that word later. I believe it's in a total of 3 times in the Psalm. I didn't count it, but it's coming to me. It's about 3 times. Okay, let's continue. Zoru Rishayim Meirachem. Ta'u mi beten dovre chazav. The estranged are the wicked, even from the womb. And from birth, those who speak lies go astray. Okay, so the wicked are estranged even in the womb. Even in the womb, there's a wickedness. And of course, we immediately think of, what do we think of? We think of Esav and Yaakov, okay? And we think of them fighting in the womb. Okay. Excuse me 1 minute. Naomi's back, and I just have to sign her in as a co-host. She is okay. So and those who are liars from birth, they're already speaking falsehood. So what does this mean? We don't have this in Judaism, everybody's born bad. We don't necessarily believe that. What we believe is we're all born with a yetzer hara, okay? And there's just specifics about when it takes over and what, this and that. We don't have to worry about that. But we have bechira. We have free choice. This is something that even the most wicked person has. Now, they may have their free choice limited, such as Pharaoh had his free choice at a certain point. His heart was hardened. He would have had a really struggle to do good, okay? But we all have free will, and there's different levels of free will. And our sages tell us that Esav was evil, but he could have done tshuva at a very young age if he wanted to. But he had such a lust for murder. He loved murdering people, and he loved immorality, and he didn't want to overcome his desires. He enjoyed them. Okay, Rebbe Nachman teaches us we have to engage with our own yetzer haras daily. He uses in some places the language of a battle, and he gives us various tools for how to do so, most of which are very positive and uplifting, I might add. They're not this browbeating, Lisserdick kind of beat yourself up stuff. It's all very uplifting. Focus on the good, and you'll build up the good because you are what you think. Okay, your reality is what you think it is. Okay, I'm going to continue. Chamas lamo kidmus chamas nachash kimo fesen cheresh ya'atem aznoi. Okay. They have chamas, they have venom, like the chamas, the venom of a snake, like a deaf viper that closes its ear. Now, Rebbe Nachman explains that lashon hara is the sin of the serpent, and that's what David is referring to here. A snake or a serpent is a nachash, and a viper is a pesen, or fesen in this grammatical usage. You can remember the word because it sounds just like poison. And it's interesting that there are two broad classes of snake venoms. And I didn't have a chance to really think deeply about this. I wish I had more time. But the serpent, the snachash, which would be like a cobra that is in Israel. There's a type of Egyptian sand cobra in Israel. These have neurotoxins which primarily block nerve signals in the body. And the vipers, which Israel has a lot, the most famous one I think is the Palestine viper. You can look it up. It might be Palestinian viper. I don't remember the name. And their venom is hemotoxins, which primarily digest tissues and cause internal bleeding. And so what does this mean? I mean, we know how wise our sages were. We know how wise David was. I think that there's some kind of implication there. I don't know what it is. If you have any ideas, let me know. Okay. So I think that we should also delve a little bit into the Ari here from Shar HaGilgulim. And what I'd like to say is that this excuse me, just want to this goes back to this bringing up of a snake, always goes back to Gan Eden. It always does. Always goes back to Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve. And the mystical texts tell us, actually, the Gemara tells us that the serpent who had legs at that point, his legs were removed from him. The sin was that he actually cohabitated with Chava, and that he poisoned her with a kind of poison called zuhama, which is a kind of impurity that we can't purify on our own. Only when Mashiach comes, we'll be able to get rid of this kind of impurity. And this is something that we have to battle our whole lives. Okay, and everybody in various levels. It's a type of negative energy. And there were only, it's kind of interesting, there were only a few tzaddikim who were so pure, who committed no sins, that the only reason they died at all was because of the zuhama, because we all have it in us. And this was Binyamin, Yishai, David's father, and Kilav, one of David's sons, and Levi and Yehoshua bin Nun. And I just think it's interesting that that David's father and his son were so pure, and yet the one that teaches us, it was also, of course, he was a great tzaddik, David HaMelech, who we've been speaking about for a couple of years already, had a sin that became sort of the main lesson for us throughout all the Psalms. Who teaches us how to do tshuva, mahava, and with love and with fear? It's David. So anyway, this poison is also related to Amalek, and it is the poison of indifference to Torah and Amunas Hashem. And it's a type of atheism. And when we think about all of David's enemies, okay, Shaul wasn't an atheist, but when we think about all of David's enemies, like Ahitophel and Doeg and Avner, I mean, we've discussed them and so on. One of their primary faults was they believed in their own power more, or even exclusively, over the power of Hashem. Okay. Let's continue. Okay, as I said, there's a lot more animals coming up, but we still have more to do with snakes. Hold on one moment. Asher lo yishma lekol milachashim, chover chavarim michukam. Okay. So the previous verse was about the snakes, and then it continues, and the snake that closes its ear, so as not to hear the voice of milachashim, of charmers, or even the caster of spells, the most skillful wizard, the most skillful caster of spells. So these people won't listen to anything. They're not even swayed by snake charmers. Okay, let's continue. Elohim haras shenemo befimo, malteos kefirim nisots Adonai. Hashem, or Elohim, smash their teeth in their mouth, break the molars of lions. Hashem. So Al-Shich explains that after charming the serpent, the snake charmer then defangs it. That's apparently was the custom in those days. And we remember with snake charmers, they're not necessarily, they play the flute and everything. The snake can't really hear them, but the snake, they say, is responding to the movement of the snake charmer. And it hypnotizes it with this movement, then it pounces on it and defangs it, the snake charmer. And Al-Shich says they deserve to have their teeth taken out, which means killed. And it's a euphemism for killed, because why? They speak lashon hara. And in Shaul's time, 4 people died because of this sin of lashon hara, and I don't think I'm going to go into all the background on it, but they were Doeg, Shaul, Achimelech, and Avner. Okay, and so far I think we've gotten to know all of them in this class, as well as some others. All right, let's continue. Yimaasu kamo mayim yishalechu lamo, yidrochitzav kamo yismo lalu. So there's a couple of translations of this. I think I'm going to do this one. May they melt like water that flows from them. Each one draws his arrows. May they be as if crumbled to pieces. So what this is speaking about is that they should have to wade through tears when they draw their arrows. They should fail. Okay, we're just going to do the simple meaning. Let's continue. We're going to get to more animals. Kamo shabalul temes, yahaloch nefel eshes, bal chazu shamesh. Like the snail, which continuously melts, a mole and a stillbirth, which did not see the sun. Okay, so a snail crawls along and it leaves a trail of mucus. Okay, by the way, oddly enough, for the past few years, it has apparently become very trendy to put, thank God, not amongst us, but to put snail mucus on your face, because apparently it gets rid of wrinkles. I'm not trying it. I'd rather have wrinkles. And this idea of a snail, as it travels away from us, it looks like it's melting away. And also, it's an animal that's considered a repulsive animal. Okay, it's considered that way by our sages. So David is really, he's insulting them, but very aptly. Now, it's interesting. We speak often about the doubling. We've spoken over the past several months about the doubling that David does. And here we have rather than a doubling of a phrase, we have a conceptual doubling. And he speaks and says that his enemy should be as a stillborn mole, essentially. That's really what he's saying. A mole who's a stillbirth. Okay, what does this mean? Who never sees the sun. A mole never sees the sun anyway. First of all, it's blind. And second of all, it lives underground in tunnels. Who does that remind you of? Okay. So, so please Hashem, this psalm, learning this psalm together should, as we said in the beginning, be a merit for protection, safety for our soldiers. And how about a swift victory as well? So a mole never sees the sun, and a stillbirth mole is like a doubling up of this idea of something that would never see the light of day. Okay, so so we have this idea that this is what should happen to the enemies. They should just disappear before they even see the light of day. Okay, we'll continue. B'terem yavinu sirosechem atad, kamo chai kamo charon yisarenu. Okay. Before your tender briars, developed into hard thorns, with might or with vigor, with wrath, he will storm on them. So young, wicked people are like a sira, a young briar. A briar is like a briar patch or a briar hedge, are twiggy bushes with softer thorns. They're young thorns. They're not hardened. Okay. And the older people, okay, who are wicked, it's like they have hardened thorns, like an attar, it's a thorn. So this idea is that he says before they even harden into thorns, before they even develop their wickedness fully, Hashem should storm on them, okay, before they even have a chance to do evil. Okay, and we will continue. Yismach tzadik ki chaza nakam pe'amav yirchatz bedam harasha. Rejoice will the tzaddik when he sees the vengeance, and his feet he shall bathe in the blood of the wicked one. What is this? I mean, that doesn't sound so. What do you mean he'll bathe his feet in the blood of the wicked? So let's talk about this rejoicing. We spoke about this in the past, that when a tzaddik sees that Hashem has avenged him, he sees the actual vengeance. He's able to rejoice because he knows he's a tzaddik. David himself referred to this. Unlike, for example, Lot, okay, when he left Sodom and Gomorrah, okay, he wasn't allowed to look at the destruction. You know what happened to his wife? His wife turned back. She turned to a pillar of salt, but he wasn't allowed to look. They were told, don't look back. Why? Because they weren't righteous. They were only saved on account of Abraham, who was a tzaddik, not on their own righteousness. Okay, but here a righteous one will rejoice because he sees the vengeance. Now, what does it mean he will bathe his feet in the blood of the wicked? So we'll bring in Rav Hirsch today. He tells us that this actually refers to the tzaddikim, to the righteous in the general sense, who they see that the wicked walked their lives in evil, and they will wash their own feet. They will bathe their feet, okay, not necessarily in the blood of the wicked, but they will bathe their feet to purify their steps. What is he saying here? It's very fancy and it goes on and it's complicated. So what he's really saying here is, hey, wake up, everyone. You want to be righteous. Look at what the evil people are doing and don't do it. It's so simple. Okay. Look at what the good people are doing. Okay. Have role models. It's so important. You know, it's so important for each of us to have role models. Okay. I see that there's a message. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to answer that question at the end as soon as I finish. Okay. All right. Vayomar Adam ach peri latzadik ach yesh Elohim shoftim ba'aretz. And mankind will say, truly, there's reward for the righteous. Truly, there's a God who judges the earth on earth. And that's really what we're davening for. Okay. David wants us to recognize that one day we will all be able to say, see, there's reward for the righteous. He wants us to have that hope and to have that emunah and to have that bitachon as well, that that one day all of mankind will say, there's reward for the good people, and truly Hashem judges the earth. And Hashem will avenge us. He always does. And we have to keep believing that. And we know throughout our history, he's always saved us and he always will save us. And when it's very, very severe, we look at what David went through with just nonstop. David's life is for us a lesson in how to continually pick ourselves up, not only as a nation, as a Jewish people, but as individuals, to pick ourselves up, no matter what barrage of attacks is against us, no matter how many problems, difficulties, disappointments, pain, suffering that we go through, pick ourselves up and know that one day everything will be good. There is a happy ending, and that perhaps is, such a simple thing, and sometimes it seems so far away, but that's what we have to focus our attention on, and God willing, we will see this, and we will be able to experience the Geula and greet Mashiach Tzidkenu in our time. Okay, I am going to answer Goldie's question, which is, what was the name of the tumah that the snake gave over to humans? And that is called Zuhama. And it's discussed in a lot of the more mystical texts. And there's more messages. Hold on one second. Okay. See, any more questions? Oh, the WhatsApp group. Okay. So I'm going to, are there any more questions? I'm going to post my number, and all you have to do is text me and ask me to add you to the WhatsApp group. I'm happy to do so. We're entering, I don't know if it's already or if it's in next week or this week, I think our 7th year of doing daily audio lessons, which is astonishing to me. So just, okay, there we go. Just, I don't know, can you see the number? Let me see. Just text me and I'll add you to the group. You have to have WhatsApp to be added, and it's usually 5 days a week. Okay. All right, let me turn off the recording since there are no more questions, and we'll say our Tehillim. One moment. Oh, please provide the source for Avner holding in a headlock. It's a Midrash Otsar. Hold on, it's a Midrash. Midrash Otsar. Hold on, let me find it. Oh, Midrash Otsar Midrashim. It's a collection of Midrashim. I don't know specifically. Okay. All right. You don't. Okay. So somebody says she doesn't see the number to join. Are you in the chat? Are you in the chat, Pamela? Hold on one second. Let me do it again. Let me do it again. I see what I did. I sent it to, there you go. Okay, hopefully everyone can see it. Nope. Ugh. Meeting group chat. Let me turn off the recording.